Photoshop is going mobile.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got Adobe's press release right here with all the juicy details, but we really want to like break it down. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what does this actually mean for all of us, especially for you listening right now?
Right.
Photoshop on your phone.
I know.
It's kind of crazy to think about, right?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. What I think is really interesting is they're not just like, kind of squeezing in a few basic features.
Right.
They're bringing like core Photoshop tools like right to your fingertips.
Yeah.
Layering, masking, even AI features, all powered by Adobe Firefly.
I know. I was like scrolling through the press release and I saw spot healing brush and I was like, wait, that's a free feature. Like what?
It's amazing.
So this is clearly a big deal, but I'm curious, what kind of impact do you see this having, especially for people who, might not be Photoshop experts already?
That's a great question. Well, I think, if you think about someone who's really into photography,
Yeah.
or maybe they create content for their social media, this gives them a level of image editing power that they just might not have had access to before.
Totally.
All more being tied to a desktop computer.
Right.
You could literally be retouching a photo while waiting for your coffee.
Yeah. And it feels like they're really trying to reach like a new generation of creators with this. Even in the press release, they quote Ashley Still, who's Adobe's senior vice president. She's talking about unlocking next generation creativity. I mean, what do you think about that whole like mobile first design thing? Could that actually like change how people create, maybe even lead to like new creative professions that we can't even imagine yet?
Yeah. I think that's a real possibility. I mean, this kind of accessibility could lead to like entirely new creative workflows.
Yeah.
Like imagine designers collaborating in real time on a project, starting on their phones, then seamlessly moving to a tablet or a desktop.
Wow.
Like it can really change how we think about the creative process itself.
So we've got all this creative potential swirling around,
Right.
but I want to like break down what you actually get with this mobile version.
Yeah.
So the press release highlights both free and paid features. What stood out to you in that breakdown?
So the free features alone are actually quite impressive.
Okay.
You get layering, you get masking, the spot healing brush, and get this generative fill powered by Adobe Firefly AI.
Whoa. Back up. Firefly. That sounds pretty high tech.
It is.
I'm guessing some of our listeners might not be familiar with Firefly.
Yeah.
Can you give us like a quick rundown?
Yeah.
What is it? How does it work?
Because a generative fill uses AI to help you create and edit images.
Okay.
So like imagine you've got a photo that you love.
Yeah.
But you want to change the background. You can use generative fill to basically invent that new background. It analyzes your existing image and then creates something that blends in seamlessly.
So it's like AI is finishing your picture for you.
Exactly.
That sounds incredible, but how accurate is it? Can it really create something that looks natural?
Like any tool, there's a learning curve.
Right.
But Adobe has been working on Firefly for a while now.
Okay.
And it's pretty impressive.
But what if it goes wrong?
I mean, it's possible. But think of it like this. If you were painting a picture by hand,
Yeah.
you could make mistakes too, right?
Yeah.
The key is to learn how the tool works and use it intentionally.
Okay, so we've got all this cool stuff in the free app, but then the press release also mentions a paid mobile and web plan. What are like the main differences between the free app and the paid plan?
Well, the paid plan basically unlocks the full power of Photoshop across your devices.
Okay.
You get web access, which is fantastic for more complex projects, and you get a wider range of tools.
Okay, like what?
So think advanced selection features. So you can isolate parts of an image with pinpoint accuracy. More typography options.
Okay.
Which is great for graphic designers.
Makes sense.
And even more Firefly AI features.
So essentially, the free app gives you a taste of what Photoshop can do.
Yeah.
And the paid plan is like, okay, now the training wheels are off.
Exactly.
Go wild.
Exactly. And that actually brings us back to the idea of accessibility.
Okay.
Even the paid plan, with its powerful features, is still more accessible than a full desktop subscription.
Right.
So it opens up possibilities for people who might not have been able to afford or utilize Photoshop before.
That's a really good point. It seems like Adobe is really trying to change the game here, not just with the technology itself, but with who has access to it. But are there any downsides to this level of accessibility?
That's a good question. I mean, will everyone be designing masterpieces on their phones now?
Yeah.
Could this somehow dilute the quality of creative work overall? Those are valid questions.
Yeah.
It's something we definitely need to consider as these powerful creative tools become more readily available. But I don't think it necessarily means that like everyone will suddenly become like a professional designer.
Yeah.
It's still about, talent, skill, a good eye.
So it's more about like expanding the pool of potential creators,
Yes.
not necessarily guaranteeing that everyone will be producing amazing work.
Exactly. And it's about making those tools available to people who might have a unique vision,
Yeah.
but have lacked the means to express it before.
I like that. Okay, so think about it. We don't question the accessibility of like pencils and paper, right?
Right.
They're available to everyone,
Everyone.
but not everyone becomes like a world-renowned artist.
Exactly.
So maybe this is just another tool in the creative toolbox, one that might open doors for people who previously didn't have access.
Exactly. And who knows what amazing things might come from that.
All right, so we've talked about the features, the potential impact, the accessibility, but let's dive a bit deeper into Firefly.
Okay.
You mentioned that it uses AI and that it's commercially safe. There's been a lot of talk lately about AI and like copyright issues, especially with AI-generated art. Can you kind of unpack that commercially safe aspect a little bit more?
Sure.
What does that actually mean for someone using Firefly to create?
Well, one of the big concerns with AI-generated art is like, do you actually own the copyright to what you create?
Yeah, that's a good point.
With Firefly, Adobe has taken steps to ensure that the content you generate is commercially safe.
Okay.
Meaning you can use it for things like social media posts, marketing materials. You could even sell prints of your work without worrying about copyright infringement.
So how do they do that? Is it something about the data that Firefly is trained on?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Remember how I mentioned it's trained on Adobe stock images and public domain content?
Right.
That's a key part of it. By using a data set of images that are already cleared for commercial use, they're minimizing the risk of copyright issues.
So it's not just randomly pulling images from the internet. It's using a curated data set that's specifically designed for this purpose.
It's like having access to this vast library of royalty-free images that you can then remix and reimagine with the help of AI.
Okay, so commercially safe images, that's a big deal. But the press release also mentioned something called content credentials.
Yes.
What are those, and how do they tie into responsible AI usage?
So content credentials are like a digital fingerprint for your creations.
Okay.
They basically provide information about how an image was made, including whether AI tools were used.
So someone looking at an image could see if it was created using AI.
Yeah, it's about transparency.
So what kind of information is actually included in these content credentials?
It can include details about the software that was used, the AI model, even the date and time of creation.
Wow.
It's like a behind-the-scenes look at how the image came to be.
So it's not just about proving that the image is commercially safe.
Right.
It's about being open about the creative process itself. Precisely. It helps address concerns about AI being used to deceive or mislead. It's about responsible innovation.
I like that level of transparency in the creative world. Okay, so we've covered Firefly. We've talked about the free and paid features. And we've touched on some of the bigger implications of Photoshop going mobile. But I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the creative landscape as a whole.
Okay.
How do you see this release fitting into like the broader trends in technology and creativity? What does it tell us about the future of how people create and share their work?
I think it definitely points to a future where creativity is even more integrated into our daily lives. Like imagine capturing an idea for a design like on your phone.
Yeah.
And then you're refining it on your tablet while you're commuting. And then you finalize it on your desktop later that evening. That kind of like seamless workflow is becoming more and more possible.
Yeah, it's like those barriers between devices are breaking down. Creativity can flow more freely.
What kind of impact could that have on like professional workflows? Could we see mobile becoming like a more central tool for like serious creative work?
Absolutely. I mean, we're already seeing professionals in like various fields adopting mobile tools.
Okay.
You've got architects sketching concepts on their tablets, filmmakers editing footage on their phones, musicians composing on the go.
Yeah.
Mobile is becoming less of a light option and more of a powerhouse platform.
But what about those people who argue that like mobile devices will never truly replace like the power and the precision of a desktop setup?
Yeah.
Is there a risk that we're like sacrificing quality
That's a good point.
for the sake of convenience?
It's a valid concern. And there are definitely limitations to what you can achieve on a smaller screen.
Yeah.
But you also have to keep in mind that like technology is evolving rapidly.
Right.
Processing power, screen resolution, even Like the way we interact with mobile devices is constantly improving.
So it's not a question of IF mobile will catch up to desktop, but like when?
Exactly. And the lines are already blurring. I mean, there are mobile apps out there that rival desktop software in terms of functionality. It's not about replacing desktop entirely,
Yeah.
but about having like a diverse toolkit
Yeah.
that allows you to create wherever inspiration strikes.
That makes total sense. It's about having the right tool for the right job.
Right.
And sometimes that job might be on the go.
Yeah.
But I want to like bring this back to our listener for a moment. Like you're listening to this, you're taking it all in. Why should you care about Photoshop going mobile? What's the relevance here? Even if you don't consider yourself a creative professional.
Well, I think it highlights a broader shift towards empowering individuals to express themselves creatively.
Okay.
It's no longer about needing specialized equipment or expensive software.
Yeah.
You have a powerful creative tool right in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about Photoshop. We're seeing this trend across the board, like video editing apps,
Yeah.
music production software, even 3D modeling tools are becoming more accessible and more mobile friendly.
It really does feel like those barriers between creator and consumer are breaking down.
I agree.
Everyone has the potential to create something, share their vision, connect with others through their work.
Exactly. And that's like an incredibly exciting development. It democratizes creativity, allows for more diverse voices and perspectives to be heard, and fosters a more inclusive creative landscape.
It's like that quote we mentioned earlier, unlocking next generation creativity.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology, it's about empowering people to tell their stories and share their ideas.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that everyone has the potential to create something meaningful.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this will spark something in you.
Right.
Maybe you've always had like a creative itch, but never had the tools or the confidence to really scratch it.
Now you have no excuse.
Right.
Photoshop is literally at your fingertips. Maybe you'll discover some hidden talent for photography, graphic design, or digital art that you never knew you had.
And you don't have to be a pro to start exploring. Just dive in, have fun with it. You might be surprised at what you're capable of creating.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. From the nitty-gritty features to the broader implications of Photoshop going mobile, we've talked about AI accessibility and the potential for a whole new generation of creators to emerge. But let's circle back to Adobe's focus on this next generation.
Right.
What do you think they're hoping to achieve by specifically targeting a younger audience?
Well, I think they recognize that the next generation of creators kind of has like a different relationship with technology.
In what way?
Well, they've grown up with, touch screens, mobile devices,
Yeah,
the constant stream of visual content.
it's true.
Their creative instincts are just like shaped by these experiences.
Yeah, think about how platforms like TikTok and Instagram
Exactly.
have already fostered this culture of like visual storytelling and creative expression among like younger generations. What happens when you give those same users access to the power of Photoshop?
Ooh, that's exciting to think about. They're already pushing boundaries with the tools they have.
Right.
Imagine what they can do with a professional level tool like Photoshop, especially when it's so readily available on their phones.
Yeah, we might see a whole new wave of creative expression,
I think so.
new styles, new techniques, new ways of thinking about visual communication.
It's like passing the torch to the next generation, but in the way that like invites everyone to participate.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about empowering like these new creators, but what about the people who are already familiar with Photoshop? How might this mobile version like change things for them?
I think for a lot of people, it's about expanding possibilities.
Okay.
Imagine like a photographer
Yeah.
being able to make quick edits to a photo shoot on location,
That would be nice.
or a graphic designer sketching out a logo concept while they're waiting for a meeting. It adds a new level of flexibility and spontaneity to their workflow.
It's like taking the magic of Photoshop outside the studio
Yep.
and into the real world.
Exactly.
You're no longer tethered to your desktop. Inspiration can strike anywhere.
Right.
And now you have the tools to capture it wherever you are.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual workflows either.
Okay.
Think about the potential for collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
Like designers could start a project on their phones,
Uh-huh.
share it with colleagues through the cloud, and then seamlessly transition to a desktop for more complex edits.
So it's not just about mobile versus desktop.
Right.
It's about creating like a more fluid, interconnected, creative ecosystem
Yes.
where ideas can flow freely between devices and collaborators.
Exactly. It breaks down those traditional barriers, and it opens up exciting new possibilities for how creative work gets done. And I think that ultimately is what makes this announcement so significant.
Okay.
It's not just about a new app. It's about a shift in mindset, a recognition that creativity is no longer confined to a specific device or location.
Well said. It's about empowering anyone, anywhere, to express themselves visually.
And who knows, maybe this will even inspire some folks to dive into the world of Photoshop for the very first time.
I hope so. There's a whole universe of creative possibilities waiting to be explored,
Yeah.
and now it's literally at your fingertips.
Okay, deep divers. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We dissected all the features, we explored the potential impact of mobile Photoshop and AI, and we even pondered the future of creativity itself.
It's been quite a journey.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Now that Photoshop is in your pocket, what will you create?
What stories will you tell?
What images will you bring to life?
It's an exciting time to be a creative,
It is.
and we can't wait to see what you come up with.
That's right. Go forth, deep divers, and create. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the ever-evolving world of creativity.